Welcome to Weird Scotland, the podcast where we dive into the strange and unexpected corners of Scottish history. I'm your host, Colin MacDonald, and today we're exploring one of Scotland's most intriguing legends, the tale of a mysterious long-lost brew known as Heather Ale. It's a story that reaches back into the mists of Scotland's ancient past to a people known as the Picts, fierce warriors, master craftsmen, and some say the guardians of a fabled magical recipe. The Heather Ale was said to be more than a drink. It was a powerful elixir infused with the essence of the wild heather that carpets Scotland's hillsides. Folklore tells us that this was no ordinary ale, but a prized brew with potent mystical qualities. The Picts kept its recipe a closely guarded secret, passing it down through generations, never sharing it with outsiders. But who were these Picts? Historically, they were among Scotland's earliest known people, mysterious tribes who dwelled in the Highlands long before the Vikings or Romans arrived. The Romans themselves feared and respected these people, whose physical strength and resilience earned them a fierce reputation. And while they weren't giants in a literal sense, centuries of myth have made them appear as towering, almost otherworldly figures who roamed the wild Highlands, guarding their sacred knowledge. According to legend, one of the Picts' most guarded secrets was their Heather Ale. This ale, it said, gave courage and strength to those who drank it, and some stories even claim it could open up spiritual visions or grant insight from the other world. Heather, the flowering shrub essential to the brew, became central to Pictish rituals and remains a symbol of Scotland today, a direct link to these ancient traditions. But in the legend's most famous telling, the recipe for the Heather Ale was tragically lost. Robert Louis Stevenson, the famed Scottish author, immortalised this tale in his poem Heather Ale. In the story, as the Picts were ultimately defeated by the Scots, only a Pictish chief and his son remained, taken captive by their conquerors. The Scots, having heard whispers of the potent Heather Ale, demanded the secret recipe, but the chief refused. Faced with this ultimatum, he made a chilling decision. He offered to reveal the recipe only if the Scots first killed his son in front of him. The Scots, believing he intended to bargain, agreed, but the chief had a different plan. With his son gone, he became the sole keeper of the secret, and he chose to die with it rather than surrender it to his enemies. He met his death, taking the precious knowledge of the Heather Ale with him to the grave, and with that, the legend tells us, Scotland lost the recipe forever. Yet, the story of the Heather Ale didn't die. Over the centuries, many have tried to recreate this fabled brew. Inspired by hints passed down in folklore, modern brewers have experimented with heather as the key ingredient. One Scottish brewery, Williams Brothers, crafts a modern version called Fraoch Heather Ale, claiming it draws from a traditional recipe believed to date back over 4,000 years. Using the flowering tops of heather, often at peak bloom, this brew attempts to capture some of that ancient magic with a floral, earthy flavour that evokes the landscape of the Highlands. But there are those who say that no modern recipe can truly recreate the original. The Picts, after all, may have infused their ale with a mystical quality, something intangible and elusive that modern brewers can't replicate. This missing essence is part of what keeps the legend alive, drawing Scots and visitors alike to sample Heather Ale and reflect on the mystery that surrounds it. The Heather Ale legend, in many ways, represents the legacy of the Picts themselves. Despite facing wave after wave of invading forces, they managed to keep a unique identity that set them apart. And the Heather Ale, lost but never forgotten, became a symbol of their fierce independence, their resilience, and the enduring magic of Scotland's heritage. So, next time you're in Scotland, take a moment to appreciate the wild heather on the hillsides or try a modern heather ale. And remember, you're sipping a brew inspired by one of Scotland's oldest tales, a toast to the Picts, the Highland giants, and the secrets they carried to their graves. Thanks for joining me on Weird Scotland. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to subscribe and leave a review, and tune in next time as we explore more of Scotland's hidden history and fascinating folklore. Until then, keep your wits about you, and remember, here in Scotland, not everything is as it seems. Slàinte mhath.